Well, here we are. It is Friday, June 13th, 2025, and this is the weekly auction newsletter video we do every Friday. We talk about sales that are coming up. A lot of you come every week, and I appreciate it. And if you're new, welcome. And we talk about the Asian art market and the auction market, and increasingly we've been talking more and more about carpets and textiles, American furniture, some European furniture thrown in, and just sort of get a feeling for what's going on out there in the antique and art world. There's an awful lot going on and so forth. Yesterday we put up a preview of the Rob Michael sale that's coming up in Bruges in a few days. Hope you take a look at it. And we're going to do with the regular stuff this today, I guess. Anyway, there's some things one thing before we get into it, I want to talk about one auction that was brought to my attention by two viewers, and they wanted to know if I had ever heard of this company. And this is it. It's called Old Stone Ventures LLC. And I'd never heard of them, and they have this auction, and they're showing some interesting Asian pictures, so I took a poke through, and what I found were some very suspicious items. I'm just going to put it that way. You notice some of the estimates, $100,000 to $200,000 for a Chinlung marked bowl. It doesn't look Chinlung to me. And then there's this vase, which is described as Chongzhen period. It's not. It's a modern reproduction with a $20,000 to $50,000 estimate. And a pair of bowls that supposedly Ming. I don't think so. They certainly don't look like it to me. If you just flip them over and take a good look at the bottom, I don't think that's a Ming foot. I don't think that's a Ming bowl for a whole lot of reasons. There's the other one, and here they are. But they look impressive. One great dealer in New York once said to me, "Beware of the rare pair." And here's a rare pair that I would suggest everybody be very careful with. But I was curious about this company because they're registered. They're listed in Summit, New Jersey. And I know New Jersey pretty well. I'd never heard of them. And I went over and I Googled it, and I came up with some information about this outfit. I went to the Department of State Division of Corporations, and this turned up, though, as a Westchester County, New York LLC. Now, LLCs are established usually to insulate the owner of the business from possible litigation. Now, curiously, this company is registered in New York as an LLC since 2005. They have an inactive filing status that is past due since May 31st of 2007. They haven't filed any paperwork since, and they're now operating out of New Jersey. And then when you come down here, and the names of the executives and officers of the company are not there. There's no information to speak of. And then their address is on their, there's an address shared on their ad on Live Auctioneers. So I Googled it, and this is what I came up with. Now, this is a residential building. It's not an office building. And the building that they're working out of, I believe, is the one in the back here. And according to the real estate listings, it is a 920-foot apartment with 2 bedrooms. And I've seen this before, and I don't know what their status is or what the real deal is here. But I would be very, very careful about spending any money with this auction house, given the way they've presented themselves and what's going on. There was an auction house I saw in California a couple of years ago that was run by some Chinese mafia guys. They were 2 attorneys listed as attorneys in the state of California, living about 100 miles apart, both of them running auction houses, both of them being listed on the state filings in the state of California. Both of them were sort of on each other's companies. And how I came across them was that they had reposted a whole bunch of photographs that I recognized, and a couple were brought to my attention that were from a Brunk auction. And what they did was they literally went into the Brunk sale and copied their photographs and listed them in an auction that was supposed to take place. And all of the pictures that as far as I could tell, they had borrowed from other auctions. In other words, they were setting up an auction online where they didn't have the stuff. And it was interesting because it was 4:30 in the afternoon on a Friday. I was in New Hampshire, and I contacted the people at Live Auctioneers that I knew, and I said, "You got to look into this. There's something funny going on here." And I sent them the links to the Bronx sale and the links to their auction to show the photographs, and said to them, "This looks like they've just copied photographs from someplace, and they're getting ready to do a scam." And I don't know if that's the case here, but whenever you look up an auction house, and there isn't a pretty clear, they should have a website, they should have names of people, they should have proper filings, and sort of, I don't have a problem with LLCs per se, but when you have an LLC that's 20 years old that has no history and no executives and hasn't filed any paperwork for nearly 20 years, you want to be very, very suspicious. You want to be very, very suspicious. That's all I'm going to say on it. So if you've got this site on your watch list, I would not. I don't recommend sending these people any money. I'll put it that way, because I don't know what the deal is, but they're sure not running an auction like this out of a 900 square foot apartment with 2 bedrooms. All right, that's there's something very, very odd here, and just a heads up, be careful. Be careful. They're looking to pull a lot of. So far, the items aren't getting any interest, which is relieving, which is a relief. This one only has one bidder watching it with a $100,000 to $200,000 estimate. And obviously, if this were authentic, it would be drowning with watchers. At this point, the sale is only 7 days away, and the auction's been up for a while. So just a word to the wise, just a word to the wise. Now, there are some good sales coming up, and I'm going to talk a bit about them here. One of them is this sale. This is Marques dos Santos has a sale coming up, and it ends on the 21st, so you have plenty of time to look. They're over in Portugal, and they have good sales. They get nice things, of course. But one of the things I did notice, they now offer in-house shipping. Which is great. So if you look at something on their listing, they'll all be on the global pages by tomorrow. If you see something you like, contact them and just say, what would this cost to ship to Los Angeles or Boston or New York or London or wherever you are. Just ask them. Get some prices up front. Always try to get estimates on shipping and so forth up front. And in this sale, they've got some nice things. So it's worth paying attention to. One of the pieces that caught my eye was this interesting Qilong carved rock crystal libation cup. This is pretty nice. It looks like a 19th century one. It's beautifully done. They also did them a little after in the Republic period. This one could be 19th as well. It doesn't make much difference. It's carved out of rock crystal, which is very, very interesting. And there are several rock crystal pieces in this sale. My only gripe with Dos Santos is that they typically only show one photograph, and which I do not understand. If you're doing online, I've said it a million times, if you're doing an online auction and you've got the piece on the table and you're probably using Adobe to batch process your photographs, so there's not a lot of editing to do. If you're not using batch processing for your photographs, you're out of your mind, because you can batch process 1,500 photographs in under 3 minutes. If you use Adobe or some of these imaging softwares. But at any rate, this is a nice looking cup, but I think it's very, very dumb of these auction houses to only include one picture. I really, really think it's a big mistake, because they just get inundated with people wanting more photographs, especially if you're bidding from a distance. You have to do it. You have to get all the photographs. But this is a nice looking libation cup. Looks like it might have a fissure up here, but I'm not sure. That may be a natural inclusion in the stone. But do check it out. And there's several other crystal examples in here. And then you have this, another one, the plate, the 4th century of the discovery of India, Chinese export plate for the Portuguese market. It's got these nifty handles added onto it, nicely done. And this is a very popular pattern that you see on Portuguese porcelain in particular, with the circular scene of the ships in the center. And this is a Guangzhou example plate. This isn't an 18th century plate It's not an early one. These were done sort of as commemorative plates in China for the Portuguese market, but it's a very attractive piece of porcelain, and they typically do fairly well. It's estimated at 2.25 to 300 euros, and it'll probably go over that. I'm not sure. Sometimes they go $600-700, but it's a good looking plate. A good looking plate. And then there's this. This is something if you've been looking around for a really big punch bowl, a really big 18th century punch bowl. You want to maybe take a look at this. This is 53 centimeters in diameter, so it's roughly 20 inches wide. This is a very, very big punch bowl with this handsome lotus pattern on it, and there's some historic information about this bowl, about where it comes from. But it's a beautifully done 18th century, very high-sided and very unusual. And those of you that have been collecting for any length of time know how infrequently you see punch bowls much bigger than 16.5, 17 inches maybe. When they get up to be 18 inches, they're very, very considered to be very rare. 19 inches is rarer still. This one is around 20 inches, 53 centimeters. That works out to about 21 inches wide. That's a big, actually not 20 inches, 21 inches. It's a very big bowl. It's estimated at 4,500 to 6,000 euros. Now it mentions some restoration in it here, signs of use and some restoration. Find out what the restoration is. Sometimes they put restoration in and they just, there was a chip out of the foot or a small crack in the body or something. Because punch bowls, everybody that buys them knows, punch bowls get damaged often. Punch bowls are very often hairlined. They very often have star cracks in the bottom. It's kind of typical. It almost has to be expected. If this bowl were absolutely perfect, it would be an absolute miracle, given that it's from the 18th century. And it's from this is a wonderful town in northern Portugal. It's one of the most historic towns in the country, as a matter of fact. And I always screw up the pronunciation. Guimarães. And it is considered to have, it's a national heritage site. It's been in the National Heritage Registry for a couple of decades, I think, at this point. They have spectacular 15th century architecture, and it's considered to be sort of one of the great cultural centers of the country of Portugal. And it comes from a collection there, the Palace of Dukes, the collection of the Palace of Dukes. Or a similar example is in the collection of the Palace of Dukes in Guimarães, and so it's a very classic example. So do look into that if you're a China trade bowl collector. Also in the sale is this. It's very nice, a double-walled, reticulated sort of cage-worked Kangxi ewer with a cage-worked lid. This is a nice example, and they mentioned one that's I think in the Ashmolean Museum or something. Very, very similar. Nice Kangxi pot, quite handsome. The blue is very soft, very elegantly done, and the estimate on it is 3,700 to 5,000 euros. It has a 2,500 euro opening bid. Now, the important thing to check here, a lot of people they have they're a little nervous about shopping in Portugal for some reason, or Spain. I don't know why. People buy in England all the time. Why wouldn't you buy here? And like I said, they do their own shipping. There's only two bidders watching this. And you may have not a lot of competition, so you may just have to beat the reserve. Yeah, which is a pretty good way to buy. If everybody could buy just by beating the reserve, it's reasonable. And right now, the starting price on it is 2,500 euros or 2,800 US, which I think is fine. I think it should bring $3,200 to $4,500. I think 4,000 somewhere in there. They've given it 5,000 euro higher estimate. I think that's a little strong, but the low side looks reasonable. So if you have a yearning to own one of these, you might want to look into it. I think you might get yourself a pretty good deal. And is this also? Yeah, this is also in that sale. This is one of the most elaborate types of 18th century, these China trade urns that you can buy. They made them in varying degrees of decoration on the outside. And if you've been collecting for a while, you know this. And this one, as you can see, has the very standard sort of rose mandarin, almost a stock pattern that they used on lots and lots and lots of 1770 to 1790s export porcelains. But on this one, they added the overlay pieces of the vines and relief off of it, and then a couple of Chinese female figures standing, freestanding, as like the little statues on each side. And they have has its lids with the Fu lions still intact. This is a pretty unusual a pair of vases to be able to have the chance to buy. It is on the scale of things, of a 1 to 10. If you want to think of it that way, these are 9.5s. These are pretty good. These are very good, and I don't see any damage to them. You want to get condition reports on everything, of course, but these look pretty good. And don't get upset if one of the Fu lions has been knocked off or the lid has had an old repair to it. All that should be expected to some degree, but these are extremely rare types of these. Very, very rare. And they measure 36 centimeters in height. So they're around 14 inches tall. So they're pretty good size. They're actually a little over that. They're about almost 15 inches tall each. They're big. These are big. As you know, most of these jars of this type come in usually at around 10 to 12 inches. So these are the bigger ones. And the estimate, I think the estimate is cheap, frankly. 3,700 to 5,000 euros with a 2,800 euro, 2,500 euro opening bid. That they should bring that. In the past, we've seen these. They've had them at the bigger auction houses, and they very often in this size will bring 12 to 15,000. So don't be surprised if they get there. But these are really rare types. And again, ask them how much would they be to ship while you're getting the condition report. You have to get in touch with these companies anyway for the condition reports, because they don't generally put too much in the description. And here it just says signs of use. It doesn't say whether or not it has any restoration. So you want to clarify whether it has any restoration or not. And while you're at it, say, look, I'm located in Tulsa. This is my address or my zip code. What would it cost to ship these to me, insured, and get it all in advance? One of the things, by the way, I picked up something last week on Live Auctioneers. I'm able to get back in. I think they did something so that my site's I'm not having trouble accessing it. For a while I couldn't get in. And I bought two 7-inch early 17th century Arita dishes, and they measured 7 inches wide, and from Florida to here. And the Live Auctioneers shipping estimate was insane. It was $110 for two 7-inch dishes from Florida to Boston, and it should have been around about $45. So there's something very, very. The Live Auctioneers is trying to impose their shipping requirement on all their users, and the problem is that their shipping rates are astronomical. And I called the auction house up, and they said, "Oh yeah, just ignore that. We'll get you a better quote." And they did that. So you want to sort of pay close attention to the quoted shipping that Live Auctioneers gives you. You don't have to use it. You can use one of their other shippers. And when I call and ask about shipping, I always say, if I haven't done business with them before, I'll say, "Who I'm a dealer. Who's the shipper that most of the dealers go back to over and over?" And generally, they're the most reasonable, the most efficient, and they do the best job, and will give you the best price. Just as a little tip. All right, now hopping along over to this. This is the Bonhams sale, and I'm going to go through this. This sale's coming up. The bidding starts. This is a timed sale. It starts in a couple of days, and it runs through the 25th of this month. So you have plenty of time to go look at it, and we're going to go through it, and I'm going to show you some of the things that caught my eye. Okay, and it's an interesting sale. There's quite a few nice things in here, and the sale is happening out in San Francisco, so shipping in the United States isn't a problem. And this is just a few of the lots. There's a lot to look at in here. This is one of them. This very nice Shifu robe, 19th century example. It's a fairly classic one as far as its overall initial appearance goes, but it's a very, very fine one. It's beautifully done. The colors are vibrant. I don't see any damage to it. It's very, very tightly done. The dragons are well done. Everything on this robe looks really, really good. So if you're a robe buyer, you want to look into this. It's complete. It's got its full sleeves. Looks like it has its original liner. I don't see a lot of staining around the collar, so it probably didn't get a lot of use. And the estimate is quite reasonable, given what a lot of these have been selling for lately. This one is estimated at 4,000 to 6,000. So whatever the opening bid is. They don't say what the opening bid on it is going to be, but probably a couple of thousand or so. It should bring 6 or 7 thousand. So the estimate is extremely reasonable, in my opinion. I think I mean for what they're giving on it, which means the minimum, the reserve is going to be under 4,000 or 4,000 or below. I suspect it'll be probably 2,500. And if you can buy a fine 19th century robe like this for for $3 or $4,000, it's a heck of a buy. But it's something you want to drop bids on. This is the kind of sale you go through and you sprinkle it with bids to just take a shot at things. And in this one, you've got a group of saddles. These are carpet saddles, very nicely done. Late Qing, early Republic from the Mongolian area. The one on the upper left and lower right in particular are very, very attractive, quite unusual in their design, and the colors all look good. And there's four of them. And the estimate on them is just 2 to 3,000. And in the auctions we've seen lately, Chinese rugs lately have been doing very, very well. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with a couple of sales that had come in, and the prices were right up there. The prices were in the thousands of dollars. And these look to be quite good examples. Expect each one of them to be worth somewhere in at least in the $700 to $1,000 range. So you've got four of them there. So 2 to 3,000 again is a very reasonable estimate. And then you have this. This is nice. This is a Tang sunside decorated offering dish. It's very nicely done. I like the colors in it a lot. I like that. I've always liked this pattern. It's very, very appealing to the eye, and it's estimated at 4 to 6,000, which is sort of the price range that they typically sell in. Sometimes they sell for a little more. They rarely sell for less. They rarely sell for less than $4,000. So that might be something you want to go after if you're into Tang pottery and early ceramics. And then there's this, a very classic Han Dynasty goosehead vessel, goosehead ewer. It's 15 inches tall. The surface on it looks good. I don't see any breaks in the neck. Often these are damaged around this joint in the middle here. And very often they get bent and banged throughout time because they're fairly large. This one is a fairly big one, and there's another view of it. It's got interesting patina on it. The head looks well done. The goose's head is well done here. You can see some nice details in the beak and the eyes and so forth. So that's something worth looking at. $2,000 to $3,000 estimate. That seems very reasonable. And again, it's a Han example, so it's very, very early. And then you have this very nice blue and white. It's a Kangxi bowl with the dragons, but it has a chunhua mark on it, which you often see. That's sort of something they used frequently, as everybody knows. The Japanese use chunhua marks forever, and it's a Chinese reign. But this is quite an attractive bowl. It's very tightly done, has nice color. The interior of it is extremely developed. It's a very elaborate interior to this with 3 dragons and lots of vines and flowers and lotus blossoms and so forth. It looks good. It appears to be in very good condition, and I don't see a lot of wear or scratches or any sort of damage to it. You want to get a condition report, of course, but it's estimated at $5,000 to $7,000. It should get there. It's a very nice looking piece of porcelain. This is a good piece of domestic ware. Right there, that was made for the Chinese market more than the export market. All right, and then hopping along over to this is probably I think this is the highest estimated item in the sale, but it's a very good one. It's a classic Kangxi period celadon brush pot with dragons on it. But notice the quality of the carving right away. Right away, the carving, because when they carve into these, if you don't know, when they carve these, the depth of the carving allows the glaze to fill in those carved areas that leave these dark outlines to show you the design. So it's where it's dark, it's where the glaze is the thickest. And this one was crisply carved, and it was sold by the Chait Gallery in New York a number of years ago. There's some history on it at the bottom. This is a very fine pot. It's got this very nice white lip at the top where the green didn't go. It was left white. But the carving on this brush pot looks really good. very, very finely carved. And there's the owners. They got the name of the, there it is. This is a really good shot of it, with some downward light showing, really showing off the design. There are the dragons or the chimeras on it. Very heavily carved brush pot. It's got a $20,000 to $30,000 estimate. It should get there, I think, pretty easily. It's an awfully nice example, and it probably has a $10,000 or $15,000 starting bid on it, somewhere in there, I would expect. But if you've been looking for one, if you run a really good pot, you want to look at this. Of course, you get the condition report and do all that, but it's certainly worth pursuing. And then over to this 17th or 18th century Bombay form lion mask handle Dewa Blanc de Chine type incense burner. This is a nice one, very well rounded, creamy glaze. Nice looking from every angle. I think they only provided one photograph of this. Oh, I wish they would show. I'd love to see the base of this. It's 5.5 inches in diameter, but it's a nice looking example. It's estimated at $3,000 to $5,000. And in the last year or two, we've seen a number of these turn up. I think Doyle's had some of them. I think Freeman's had them. The other two big auction houses have had them, and they're doing pretty well. They typically sell $4,000 to $6,000 for this form. So we'll see how this one does. And then over to this. This is one of my favorite lots on the sale. This is a late 19th or early 20th century, a late 18th or early 19th century, late Qianlong to Jiajing period floor screen. Now, what's interesting about this, it's a depiction of the Tang Dynasty Guo Ziyi's birthday. The Tang Dynasty figures were often depicted on screens because it was looked back upon with such great reverence. And here you have this beautiful screen, wood ground, natural wood background, and then all the lacquer work. And here there's a giant inscription on the left-hand side. They should have shown more pictures of this to show that inscription over here, and all of the details, so forth, in the foreground, the buildings. And this is sort of an aerial view. It's not unlike how many Japanese screens were done, where they look down through the clouds into a courtyard of figures and so forth. And here it is on a Chinese example. And you have precious objects, bronzes, and incense burners, all kinds of great objects floating around the exterior. And what's really astounding about this screen is the back of it is as well done as the front. Typically, the front of these screens is very, very developed, like we saw on this one, and then the back of it is left considerably simpler, with maybe some flowers and it's decorated. It always looks nice, but not heavily decorated, not to the intensity of this. This screen is pretty much reversible. The other ones typically really aren't. Not as much. They're always good looking, but not as pretty as this. This is wonderful. These two giant phoenixes here, and you have clouds and hawks and all kinds of aviary elements in it. And then you have trees and clouds and birds, and one thing's going around the borders. You have some, looks like they're, I'm not sure what kind of birds those are. They have long tails. I'm not sure what those are, but it's and ducks on the other side and so forth. This is a heck of a screen. And it's fairly large. Now, these things are big and they're fairly heavy. So if you're thinking of buying it, you want to check on getting some shipping for this thing before you pay for it, or before you bid on it, really. But it measures. Let's see here. Each panel is 112 inches tall, so that's about 9 feet tall. And it is 18 7/8 inches wide per panel. All right, so you've got 12 panels, so it's fairly long. This is what is this, about 10 feet, 10, 11 feet long, something like that, stretched out. But it's a big screen, and the estimate on, I think, is extremely reasonable for what it is. Unbelievably reasonable, $15,000 to $25,000. That's a hell of a buy for $25,000 or even $40,000. But then again, screens always seem to be a bargain. And I don't know why. Chinese screens don't get anywhere near the love that the great Japanese screens seem to have. And I don't know, I've never understood why, but this is a very, very handsome screen. And if you've been looking for one to go in your house, I think this is a corker. I think it really, really is a good one. And then there's also this nice Guangzhou butterfly vase. This is a real one. There's so many fakes of these floating around in the market, it's hard to keep track. But this is a very nice example. And you always, one of the ways you can tell is you look at the butterflies and look at how detailed is the butterfly, and does it have the proper design? And you always want to, whenever you see one of these, if it turns up, 99% of the ones that turn up on the internet for sale are modern reproductions. They're not Republic period. Lately, of the last 15 years, the cover, the sort of pretend dating of everything is this Republic. Oh, that's Republic. This is Republic. They made a lot of stuff in the Republic period. They did, but nowhere near the numbers of Qianlong marked pieces and Guangzhou marked pieces and all these other ones that turn up constantly. I can tell you because 30, 40 years ago, when I first came to the business, there's so many more, quote, Republic pieces in the market today than there were then. It's astonishing, and it's not possible. Okay, you don't get more because there's interest in them. They didn't make that many copies of Marken period pieces during the Guangzhou period. They did make them, but they didn't make the boatloads of these butterfly vases that are turning up everywhere. Everywhere they have them. Everybody and his brother's got one in an auction, it seems. This is a real one, and it's a nice one. And you can always want to check the butterfly decoration. They get the rain marks done pretty well these days, so the rain marks are not necessarily an indicator of authenticity on any porcelain. The rain mark is the last thing you should look at when you're examining a piece of porcelain. If you learn trying to date them, you want to look at the glaze, you want to look at the decoration, you want to feel it if you can to get a sense of its weight and how the surface feels. The tactile, the value of having a tactile understanding by touching a porcelain goes a long way to helping you date them. If you haven't touched and handled a lot of them, I always say just go to auction previews, even if you don't plan on bidding and it's not in your area of particular interest or whatever. Just go and handle the pieces and get that tactile memory from touching them. It does a great deal. Anyway, this is a very nice example. The estimate is very reasonable, 8 to 12,000. It should bring more than that. In the past, these have been bringing typically 15 to 20,000. So we'll see. But that's a good looking one. And I noticed the gilding on this is in quite good shape. There's a little bit of wear to it, which is typical, but the rest of it looks absolutely fine. And that tiny bit of wear to the gilding is one of those things to be expected. And then over to this is a very nice Wutsai floral charger from the Kangxi period. I like the colors. It has a real femi-vert feeling to it with a nice underglazed blue outer border and these beautiful blossoms in the middle with vines. This is quite lovely. And then the back of it has the flower and then the grooved foot that you find on large, heavy Kangxi pieces. This was that deep grooved foot, and the paste looks absolutely fine on this. It's only estimated $2,000 to $3,000, and it measures 15 inches in diameter, so it's a big one. This is a big plate. And 2,000 to 3,000 on this, I think, is very, very, very reasonable. So if it's something that catches your eye, I would suggest you go ahead and give it a shot. All right. But register now. As I said, the sale closes on the 25th. They are also having a sale in Sydney that ends on the 25th, and we'll touch on that in a separate video. That is pretty good. But again, the folks in Sydney seem to have camera aversion, and they only take one photograph for each lot. And at the distance of Australia to the rest of the world where they're trying to sell everything to, I think they're absolutely out of their minds to run auctions that way. And I'm shocked that Bonhams has not told them, take more photographs. Let's promote these sales because you just, at a distance, halfway around the world, it's a bigger decision to decide to buy something in Australia than it is to decide to buy something in California or London or Boston or New York. All right. You've got to make it enticing, and including one measly photograph for each lot and a skimpy description doesn't do it. Anyway, so now I want to take a look at a few other things. So hold on. And we're going to finish up today by going through some other things that have turned up in the last week that we noticed that were quite attractive. And this is one of them. This is a very nice Boston mahogany serpentine front a slant lid desk from Boston. They're calling it a bureau or a slant front bureau. It's not really a bureau. It's a desk. I'm not sure why they're calling it a bureau. This is at Freeman Hindman's sale, and this looks like a Boston desk to me. It's very nicely done. It's got those great big batwing brasses on it. It was made around 1770 or so, give or take 10 years, but it has beautiful feet on it. The feet on these, it's what's known as an OG bracket foot, because it curves rather than just a straight bracket foot. They would put curves in these feet. Sometimes they use ball and claw feet, and they would put the curve in them as a sort of a visual nudge to give the viewer the impression that it's the feet are holding up something important, something heavy, something very elegant. And they sometimes when they did the ball and claw feet, the ball would be the claw would be compressed into the ball, so the ball under the foot would almost be oblong in shape, and that was to sort of give the visual cue that the piece is very heavy. And the same thing happens, I think, visually with OG brackets. And they put these on there, and they put these nice returns in, and so forth. It looks to be fine. You want to get a condition report always with American Furniture to check on any restorations of the feet all original, which is crucial, and so forth. It's got a nice galleried interior with step drawers in the middle, and it's got the little secret compartments. These little columns here pull out, and they're for storing special papers that are important and so forth, documents and whatnot. And these kinds of desks are pretty great. And you can put a laptop on them, by the way. So if you're thinking, how would you use it? Laptops fit perfectly fine on these wonderful old desks. And I think they'd be a great workstation to sit at every day. Got all these nice drawers underneath, and when the lid is open, you have plenty of room for your legs to sit there and work and do things, and you've got something absolutely beautiful in your house. The estimate on this is peanuts, $1,000 to $1,500. All right, that's a crazy low estimate. I don't know quite why. It's 43 inches in height and 43 inches wide. It's located in Chicago, and shipping this shouldn't be too much of a problem. But with that estimate, if you can buy it in that estimated range, you got a heck of a piece of furniture. Like I've said so many times, you go to a Baker or any decent furniture maker where 90% of it is turned out on automation these days. They have computers that drive the machines that cut all the parts to these pieces of furniture, and then they have people assembling them. That's all they do. There's no craftsmanship involved. This was all handcrafted, and it does look to be like a Boston slant lid. I think it's a terrific opportunity. But the reproductions of this desk, modern factory, computer-driven milled desks cost $3,000 to $5,000, and here you can buy the real deal for according to their estimate, for a fraction of that. So it's a great buy. And then there's this. This is another. I shaved this. This is coming up at, I think this is Case. Case has a good, that sale that we talked about last week. They have some China export things, and they do good sales. They also have some very good, incidentally, the Case sale. If you're a rug buyer, I mentioned it on the video I did over on the Patreon page this week. They've got a bunch of Turcoman carpets and bag faces in there, and they've lotted them together. They've got lots of two and three very good bags linked, all logged together, of Yamut Nasari pieces. There's a Bashir piece in there. There's a number of lots. There's about 15 good rug lots in there. And also maybe the best Farrahan Saruk I've seen in 5 years in that sale. It's a room-size one. It is of spectacular quality. But they have this hunt board, and we talked about hunt boards last week. Here's another one. This is a very fine one. This is unusually fine. It's inlaid with I think they list the woods that it's inlaid with. I want to get them all correct. Richmond or Virginia Federal Period hunt board, or sideboard as they were known. Yellow pine, poplar, the secondary woods. It's a walnut, cherry, and tiger maple veneers. That's what it was. I knew it was complicated. And and this is it. And as I said last week, hunt boards were made. They're very popular in the South because hunting is such a big part of the culture down there. And they would come in after hunting and stand around one of these things and eat and have drinks. And they had these very, very big drawers that could hold liquor bottles and decanters and things. And these are fairly high, but a lot of people use them as sideboards. And this is a really good one. The one last week was very good too. I think this one is a bit better though. And the lines on it are excellent. The brasses are probably original. They're old, if not original. And it's only estimated at $300 to $3,400. It should bring $4,000 or $5,000. The starting bid on it is $1,500. It's already got 84 watchers on it. That'll give you some idea of how much these are valued in the market. People love them, especially if you're living in a lot of the people live today in smaller houses and smaller apartments than they did many, many years ago. And they don't feel they have room for a full-blown sideboard like we're going to look at in a minute. So they use these as sideboards as servers. It's very, very elegant, beautifully done. Is it worth $5,000 or $7,000? Yeah, it is. It is. It's absolutely worth it. And also in the sale is this. This is Wooten and Wooten. Excuse me. This one is also this is Case. I want to get them right. This is the Wooten and Wooten sale that's coming up, and in it is quite a bit. We're gonna put all the China trade stuff. There's a big China trade collection. This is in South Carolina. There's a bunch of China trade porcelain. This is one of them. And if you haven't seen one of these, it's because they don't turn up very often. This is a rose medallion porcelain clock case. And they're done in the very traditional rose medallion pattern from 1850 to 1870, somewhere in there. They turn up occasionally. They're pretty rare. They're very rare, actually. This one has works in it. You can change the works if you don't like them. But anyway, this is the side of the case. There's the rose medallion pattern, and so forth. And it looks to be in excellent shape. And then you have the figural scene on a terrace on the top, and so forth. It measures about a foot tall or something, 14 inches tall. These are pretty unusual. If you like rare pieces, you might want to look at this. This is because they don't turn up very often. I think the last one we saw on here on Live Auctioneers and Invaluable and all the auctions in the last few years, I think it was 5 years ago we saw one. They don't turn up often, and they typically bring $1,500 to $2,500. So you want to look at this. Is estimated at $1,000 to $2,000. I think that's a perfectly reasonable one. It's got 13 people watching it. But if you like unusual China trade, that's a good one. Also in the sale, they got things like this. They got a very nice set of, well, they're dating it as 1800. I think these are a little later, probably about 1820. But Mandarin dishes, and these Mandarin dishes with the full figural scenes in the center, done in this manner, typically do very well. Typically do very, very well. So we'll see how they do this time. I expect this lot will probably sell for around $2,500, somewhere in there, a good bit over the estimate. Typically is how they do. They've got 31 people watching it, but they're highly desirable among collectors. These are 8 inches in diameter. Very, very nice quality, though. And then you have this workmaster's or servant's desk, Federal Black Walnut. This is a southern desk. And these are very rare. Some people say these were slave masters' desks, incidentally, just so you know, down in the South, because they would stand at it. These were desks that were meant to be stood at, almost like raised school teacher desks, school teachers' writing desks that are elevated, that have those long legs on them. This is one that has a case under it, so you can have drawers for your paperwork and your documents and your ledgers and all this other business. It's got a small knee hole in the center and so forth. This is quite a nice one. And I don't quite understand, it's sort of a head scratcher why the estimate is so low. And it has recessed panel ends on it. There's a beautiful, beautiful cabinet making in here. And I think they said one of the secondary woods is, was it poplar or secondary white pine, possibly cottonwood. It's got cottonwood in it. And you only find cottonwood in furniture in the South. You find poplar in some of it. but cottonwood you don't find in any furniture in the north because it doesn't grow around here. But this is a very nice looking desk, and it looks very fresh. Looks like it's in great condition, but the estimate is only $400 to $600, and it may be because they don't have a lot of comps for these. They just don't turn up very often. But if you want a really interesting desk or writing desk, this is a pretty good thing. This is a pretty good thing. All right, and then hopping along over to this. Now, this is a full-blown sideboard. This is a big Boston Federal period sideboard. Very, very nice, all inlaid. Great mahogany veneer on the front, all this flame mahogany veneering up the fronts of the drawers as we've seen in other pieces. And then these are doors, obviously, that open out. When I was a kid, my mother actually had one of these. It was nearly identical to this one. I got a kick out of seeing it. And then it's all, they would do a lot of inlays around the frame on the facing side, because this was meant to go in a dining room. So they wanted to be pretty elegant looking. And this is fairly good size. It is 6 feet long and 41 inches high. But a beautiful example. It's coming out of a collection in South Carolina. And there's the liquor drawer. You put your bottles in there, and they were very effective. They were very efficient places to keep things. You have these very, very nicely done dovetails and so forth. Very good. Let's see here. The estimate is just $1,500 to $2,000. That seems such a shame. I think when we sold my parents' sideboard back in the day, 20-something years ago, after we lost them, I think that sideboard at that time brought about $9,000. So it's a different era, I guess, today. But this is a great piece of furniture. And if you need a good sideboard and you're within 200 miles of Wooten and Wooten, they are located in Camden, South Carolina. You could get yourself a heck of a thing and not have to pay $800 or $1,000 to have it trucked to you. But boy, what a beautiful piece of furniture! Excellent. And then over to this, it's just a reminder. This is that on the 17th, just in a few days, that stair gallery sale is coming up with some very nice porcelains that we talked about last week, including this quite extraordinary late 18th century China trade caddy. It's a rare bird. It's got 71 people watching it. The bidding's up to $700. Expected to bring $5,000 to $7,000. Just as a likelihood, but it's a beautiful example. And these are some of the rugs at Case Antiques. That's right, I did save one, and this is one lot. This is a very nice Osari star choual, and down here you have this very, very fine Yomud choual with the keps, what are known as keps gulls on them, which is this design. And you may remember last week we talked about the results from the Ripon Boswell sale. There was a nearly identical one to this one in there, and that alone brought around $1,600, as I recall. So this will give you some idea what this lot could bring. And there's also a Bashir piece in there that has excellent color and is estimated, I think, very reasonably. There was one in the sale earlier this week that completely went through the cracks, and I think it only went for, with the premium, only about $600. It should have brought $1,000 or $1,500. But this lot should do much better than that estimate. I would think it should bring $1,500 to $2,000 at the minimum. And they gave it a $300 to $350 estimate, so that they're there to sell it. This is at Case Antiques, Case Auctions on July 13th. You have plenty of time to look at it, but I like their sales. I like how they do them, and they're in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they seem to have the Knoxville, Tennessee, and they seem to have a real tight grip on the upper end furniture and auction market in that area. Sort of the way Leland Little and Brunk do in their area. I think these guys sort of have a lock on things in Tennessee, because I can't think of any other auction houses in their area that gets the quality and quantity of things that Case gets. So when they have a sale, it's always worth looking. They get interesting things, interesting documents, historic things, all kinds of stuff. And I love those old auction houses. So like William Smith up in New Hampshire gets interesting things. Devin Moisen gets interesting things. Grogan's in Boston gets interesting things because they have good relationships with law firms, and if you work with law firms firms as an auctioneer, I can tell you from my own experience, and you do a good job for them, they come back over and over and over again. If they're doing if they're doing their job and being careful with how they consign property to be sold. There are certain auction houses that have strong followings with lawyers. And some auction houses used to have strong lawyers. I can think of one big auction house in Boston that used to, and they don't anymore, because they've screwed things up. But at any rate, I'm not going to get into it. But there are a number of good auctioneers around the Boston area that do well, and down the South too. There and in New Jersey, you've got Millet Brothers, who just had a very good sale. They seem to do a good job. Stair Gallery gets good things. There aren't a lot of good, really, really, really good auction houses left anymore, or that are around at this point. There used to be quite a number, and now they've sort of been concentrated, and so forth. And it's important to know who they are, if you're looking to buy and if you're looking to sell something, because it makes the world of difference on how your things do. All right. That's it for the week. I hope you find something that you like out there. The global pages will be updated this week, and we're going to post a few things over for the Patreon folks this week. We seem to be on a little bit of a thing about Japanese porcelain lately. I don't know why. One of our viewers did his own collection of very nice early Arita wares from the 1650s and earlier. He put them in a PDF file and dated them and did a very good job. We posted it over there, and a lot of people I know downloaded it and are enjoying that. And there's some other things going on. So if you're subscribing over on Patreon, we'll be putting up some interesting things in the next couple of days for you to see that we've come across. So anyway, there we are. If you haven't subscribed yet here on YouTube, please do. And we do these at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. And we'll be back next week with other videos. All right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.